Black Friday has started on Boosty. Up to 60% discount on subscription levels. Hurry up to buy at such a great price. Link in the description. Enjoy watching, everyone. Description: for the invention of the technique, Edo Tensei Shinigami decided to punish Tobirama Senju. However, his older brother, Hashirama, took all the blame and punishment on himself. Now he must return to the world of the living and take care of the Uzumaki Naruto, who is his grandniece. How will the girl's life turn out if she is raised by the first Hokage? And then Mokutan awakened. Chapter 11: Momochi Zabuza. Team 7, Tizuna, and the boatmen successfully crossed the sea, leaving the shores of the Land of Fire behind. Naruto had read that the Land of Waves was a small country located on several islands near the Land of Fire, and that it did not have its own hidden village. Also, the Land of Waves had many rivers flowing through it, and because of them, the country was famous for its mangrove forests, which were full of all kinds of life forms. But the Land of Waves did not look like the pictures in the book. Sure, there were many rivers, there were unusual animals, but the air smelled of burning, there were no birds to be heard, and there were no people. And that was pretty strange. Suddenly, a white fluffy rabbit jumped out into the clearing. Its ears stuck up, and its pink nose twitched amusingly. "What a cutie!" Sakura exclaimed, jumping up to the animal and picking it up in her arms. "Sakura," Uzumaki said slowly. "Let him go." "Why?" The girl looked at Naruto. "Because the animal is afraid of something. And this something is approaching with the clear intention of killing us," the blue-eyed girl answered. "Bend!" Kakashi screamed sharply, and all 5 of them abruptly dropped to the ground. And just in time. The next second, something whistled over the heads of the company and crashed into a tree. It turned out to be a huge sword. Suddenly, a 30-year-old man with a naked torso, in light baggy pants with a vertical stripe, appeared on the sword. On his feet were cloth boots of a blue and white camouflage color. On the man's hands were long arm warmers, almost reaching his armpits, the same color as the boots. The lower part of his face was covered with a bandage. The shinobi's short black hair stuck out in all directions. The headband with Kiri's forehead protector was shifted to the side. "Give me the architect and I will not touch you," the ninja said in a cold, rough voice. "No." Kakashi shook his head, putting the book in his pouch. "Who is this?" Sakura asked quietly. "It's Momochi Zabuza." Hatake answered her quietly. "Who is he?" "Your death," the missing nin answered, smiling bloodthirstily, which was noticeable by the slightly shifted bandages near his mouth. With these words, Momochi pulled out his sword, on which he stood, and landed on the ground. The fog thickened. "Protect the client," Hatake shouted, and the children stood around the architect. Kakashi lifted the bandana with the Konoha protector, and everyone saw a red eye with a small black pupil and 3 commas around it. It was the Sharingan, the dojutsu of the Uchiha clan. Hatake took out a kunai and rushed somewhere into the fog. The children did not see anything, only heard the clanging of metal and the short remarks of the fighters. Mocking from Zabuza and cautious from Kakashi. And, of course, the names of the techniques. Moreover, there were more Suiton techniques. A couple of Doton techniques came from Kakashi, and they were defensive. Sometimes Katon flashed. Hatake also tried. But there was no Right-un or Futon at all. Futon because both of them didn't have it, and Right-in because the mixture of water plus lightning is not the most pleasant and terribly painful. Naruto knew this from herself when she sent a stream of water at Hatake during training. And he was just using Chidori. Finally, Kakashi used some technique, and the fog began to dissipate. However, immediately after that, a strange sound was heard. Uzumaki frowned. She didn't like it. She didn't like it at all. Finally, the fog completely disappeared and the clearing became clearly visible. What appeared before the guys did not make them very happy. Kakashi was in a ball of water, and Zabuza was standing next to him. One hand of the swordsman was in the water prison, and the other held the decapitator, a huge sword Momochi. But that was not all the surprises. The second demon of the mist was right in front of the guys and swung his sword. Sasuke reacted first. He pulled out a kunai and blocked Zabuza's blow with it. And then he pulled out another kunai with his other hand and cut off the man's hand, which turned into water. Water clone, Uzumaki realized and, taking out a katana from the seal, attacked the demon from the other side. The genin worked in pairs and all their movements were composed and synchronous, as if they had been fighting in pairs for a very long time and knew perfectly well what their partner would do next. It was as if they read each other's thoughts. Uzumaki attacked from the right, cutting the water in half, and Sasuke from the left, not allowing the water to return to its place and restore parts of the clone's body. When one Momochi was finished, the genin attacked the second, the original. However, unlike Naruto, Sasuke could not stand on water, so only Uzumaki rushed into the attack, leaving the angry Uchiha to splash in the cold water. Having attacked Zabuza, the girl immediately understood all the disadvantages of the water prison. While a shinobi is holding someone in this technique, he cannot leave from there or remove his hand, otherwise the enemy will break free. Based on all this, it can be understood that now Zabuza can fight only with his left hand, which means that his chances of winning are higher. Having made a false lunge, Uzumaki forcefully hit Zabuza in the stomach with her knee, from which he bent over and immediately received a blow to the back with her clasped hands. And the blow was fueled by chakra. Zabuza released Kakashi from the water prison, which the latter immediately took advantage of. Having made many seals, from which all fingers almost broke, Hatake directed the water dragon at the enemy. Momochi was washed away by a huge wave of water. And only the tree trunk decided to help the poor missing nin to stop. Well, how? Help. More likely to hit the long-suffering back of the swordsman with all his might. Did Gato hire you? Asked Kakashi, approaching the defeated enemy. But he was silent. Suddenly, two sharp needles pierced Momochi's neck and he fell to the ground. Kakashi frowned and crouched down, feeling Momochi's pulse. He's dead, Hatake said slowly and stood up. The man turned his gaze to the tree branch on which stood a boy in a mist cleaner mask. His black hair was gathered in a pouch, yellow long wide pants, a green robe and a belt of the same color as the pants, and on his feet were brown sandals. In his hand the boy had senbons. I'll take him, the boy said coldly and landed next to Zabuza. Who are you? Hatake asked. It doesn't matter. I had a mission to kill Zabuza. Momochi and I have done it. And now, farewell. The mist cleaner took Momochi's body in his arms and disappeared. After that, Kakashi sighed calmly. This mask and senbons indicated that the boy was an Oinin, which meant that Zabuza's body would be destroyed and the swordsman would no longer interfere with them in carrying out the mission. After all, Oinin destroy the bodies of missing nin from their country immediately after. But Kakashi did not have time to finish his thought. He fell to the ground from fatigue. We need to help him, Uzumaki said slowly. Chapter 12 Meeting Haku. Kakashi slowly opened his eyes and looked around. He was in a rather cozy little room. A small desk was in the corner, as was a closet with things. A large window was open, letting in fresh air. In the middle was a futon. With Hatake. How are you feeling? Asked Uzumaki, sitting next to you. Everything hurts. It looks like I won't be able to move normally for at least a week, answered Kakashi, blissfully feeling the cool rag on his forehead. Then you'll have to lie down for a bit. And tomorrow I'll go get some herbs so you can recover faster. The girl sighed and suddenly smiled slyly. You have a very beautiful face. Have you already managed to admire it while I was sleeping? Only I had time, the girl smiled. Suddenly, the rest of the 17, Tazuna and some women burst into the room. Sakura immediately sat down next to Kakashi. Sasuke sat down at a distance from the pink-haired girl. Tazuna and an unknown female representative remained standing in the doorway. The Sharingan is a good thing, but it takes a lot of strength. You should think before using a dojutsu that was hastily implanted into your eye socket. You could have, at a minimum, been unconscious for a month, and at most forgotten how to walk. Naruto reproached him and gave him a good slap. Sorry, answered Hitaki, rubbing the bump. You're sorry. Will not make it any easier, she muttered. But we defeated this strong shinobi. So we are safe now, the carpenter said cheerfully. And who was that boy in the mask? Asked Sakura, the question that interested everyone. Such a mask is worn by the Anbu of the Hidden Mist. This is a special team of ninja hunters. Their main task is to find and destroy the body of the missing nin of their village. The body can contain all sorts of secrets of their village. It is very dangerous when the enemy knows your techniques. In order to prevent this, villages send such a team to hunt down a shinobi, explained the Jonin. But something is wrong, right? Uzumaki raised an eyebrow. Yes. I think Zabuza is alive. What? Everyone exclaimed. First, the Anbu could have simply cut off the head for proof and destroyed the body on the spot, but he just took the body. Second, the hunter nin used needles, and it is very difficult to kill a person with these needles, you can only fake death. I think his task was not to kill, but to save Zabuza. So Momochi is alive and will return to take revenge? Tazuna frowned. Yes, nodded Hitaki. After this conversation, about 2 days passed and Uzumaki went to collect herbs so that Tsunami Tazuna's daughter could prepare medicine and cure the sensei of the 7th team. However, Naruto was collecting herbs late in the evening and did not notice how she fell asleep in the clearing. She was too exhausted over the past days. Uzumaki woke up because someone was shaking her. Opening her eyes, she looked at the girl who woke her. Hello, the stranger smiled. Hello, the blonde answered in surprise. Who are you? And what are you doing here? I collect herbs, the girl smiled. She had long hair and a rather thin build. Herbs? Uzumaki asked again, sitting down next to her. Yes. To treat illnesses and injuries, the girl explained. Are you working so early? I like the morning, she shrugged. And you? Fell asleep here. When, you won't believe it, I was collecting herbs. Naruto nodded towards a small basket standing under a raspberry bush. Do you also treat injuries and like to collect different types of herbs? The girl was surprised. No. I'm a shinobi. And I collect herbs because I want my friend to get well soon. But in general, I like to train to become strong. Train? But you already seem strong. Isn't that enough for you? The girl's condescending tone began to irritate the Jinchuriki, but the blue-eyed girl pulled herself together. I'm still weak, answered Naruto. I need to become stronger so that I can protect the people dear to me. I want to be able to protect them and prove something to my home village. Apparently these words made some impression on the girl and her eyes clouded over, as if she was remembering a terrible past. Hey, are you okay? Everything is fine, why? The girl in a pink kimono and a white belt emerged from the depths of her consciousness. You were just deep in thought, tell me, the stranger interrupted her. Do you have someone dear to you? What? The girl did not understand. Someone dear to you? The girl's gaze became foggy again. You know, when you protect someone dear to you, you really do become stronger, the girl said slowly. She stood up and picked up a basket filled with medicinal herbs. Of course I have people dear to me, Naruto exclaimed. For example, 3 people who became older brothers to me. And 1 team from my home village. Then you will definitely become strong. Very strong, the dark-haired girl smiled. Goodbye. We will meet again. And, by the way, she turned around, continuing to smile, I'm a guy. And he left. And Naruto fell into a drop. How can a guy have such feminine hands? Such a quiet and gentle voice? Such a neat face with feminine features? Hey! Who was that girl? Her thoughts were interrupted by Uchiha, who appeared out of nowhere. It was a guy, Uzumaki whispered, drilling her gaze into one point. Chapter 13, Inari. And who are you? Naruto looked suspiciously at the boy standing in front of her. She met him completely unexpectedly. Uzumaki was going for a swim in the sea, when she suddenly saw a boy with long black hair on a small bridge. He had big dark eyes, somewhat reminiscent of Kakashi's eyes. On the boy's head was pulled a white hat with blue stripes. He was dressed in a yellow shirt and green pants with suspenders. On the boy's feet were dark boots. I am Inari. And who are you? He asked, not very friendly. Naruto, the girl smiled politely. What are you doing here? He asked just as angrily. The blue-eyed girl was confused. I came to swim. It's terribly hot. What? I mean, what are you doing in this country, and not on this bridge? Well, your grandfather hired me, just like my comrades. You're Tazuna's grandson, right? The boy nodded. Well, I'm protecting your old man. She finished happily. Get out of here, Inari said angrily. What? Naruto was surprised beyond measure. Get out of here with your friends and never come back again if you don't want to die, Inari repeated, looking at Uzumaki with disdain. Gato and his minions will kill you all. You're too weak for them. So listen to my advice and save your lives. How dare you talk about me and my comrades like that? The girl hissed. Oh yeah. She was angry. It would be fine if she was insulted, but this brat insulted her teammates, and the man who was like an older brother to her. This boy dared to doubt them. You just graduated from the academy. So you're a bit weak, he chuckled. At this point Naruto couldn't contain herself and gave the boy a slap on the back of the head with all her might, causing him to fly a couple of meters and eventually fall to the ground, clutching his bump. What are you doing? He screamed and ran into the house in tears. The dinner passed in terrible silence. Tension was in the air. Naruto and Inari looked at each other with so much hatred and killing intent that it seemed like they were both going to turn into a pile of ash. Idiot! It still hurts. Inari broke the silence. Then why aren't you crying, Mama's boy? All you know how to do is cry, the girl answered rudely. Shut up and get out of here before you die, the boy hissed angrily. I'm not that easy to kill, she answered. I'm tenacious, as they once said about me. So Gato will have to try hard to kill me. My adoptive father was a strong man, but he died in the end. The boy growled. So what? I'll be stronger than your weakling father. A terrifying Ki was spreading around Uzumaki. Don't you dare insult my father. He was a hero, unlike you. I'm still too young to be called a hero, the girl shrugged. Moreover, shut up. Inari interrupted her. How dare you say such things? You've never seen anyone dear to you die before your eyes and you don't know the pain when they die. And you're a complete fool if you want to stay and die. We're all going to die, the boy sobbed. Naruto clenched her fists and took a deep breath. She shouldn't be angry, but this little one was annoying she. How dare he say such things? This irritated Uzumaki. You're right, she said surprisingly calmly. I don't know that pain. I was too young then to understand anything. What irony, she grinned sadly. My father and mother died half an hour after I was born. I didn't have a clan to take care of me because they were both destroyed. Naruto closed her eyes and suddenly appeared behind Tazuna and Tsunami. Mother or grandfather? What? Inari didn't understand. Who should I kill first? Your mother or grandfather? Or should I finish them off at the same time? Uzumaki licked her lips bloodthirstily, taking out a kunai. No! Don't you dare touch them! Inari exclaimed. Why is that? She tilted her head to the side. We'll all be killed anyway. So what difference does it make whether I kill them or Gato? Naruto! Sakura exclaimed. Don't touch them. Don't you dare kill people. That's inhumane. Inhumane, you say? Uzumaki drawled. I'm a shinobi, Sakura, just like you, or Sasuke and Kakashi. All this time we have been trained for only one purpose: to become the weapon of the village. And the weapon must kill. With these words, Naruto walked away from the stunned Tazuna and Tsunami. The girl put away the kunai and left the house, heading into the forest. Sitting down by the tree, she smiled. And you didn't go too far? Kurama asked. No, she shook her head. I wanted to scare them. Moreover, I need to break Sakura's rose-colored glasses. And Inari, I hope, understood everything and will stop living in the past. Chapter 14 On the Bridge. Naruto stretched and yawned sweetly. Turning over onto her stomach, the girl opened one eye. Sensing something was wrong, she sat up and looked around. Strangely, Sakura was not there. Only the robe hanging on the back of the chair testified that the pink-haired girl was still here. Straining, Uzumaki used her sensory abilities, but did not find anyone. Abruptly getting up, the girl rushed to the stairs, not paying attention to the dark spots in her eyes. "Tsunami-san, where is everyone?" she shouted. "Let's go protect my father." "And you are resting today, that's what Kakashi-san said," the woman said, looking out of the kitchen. She had long forgiven Uzumaki for that incident with the kunai. The girl kindly explained why she had staged a show. And she had achieved her goal, it must be said. The next day, Inari no longer roared, but looked firmly forward and showed his best side. He became calmer and more confident. "Oh no!" Naruto hissed. Yesterday she trained until late, trying to grow a forest in the clearing. In the end, she was able to fill only half the clearing with trees, but this was already clear progress. However, the girl still overdid it and fainted from fatigue. Kakashi found her and carried her to the house of Tazuna's family. Uzumaki began to get ready. Having quickly washed and changed her clothes, the girl rushed to the bridge, jumping from branch to branch. Suddenly, her attention was drawn to a wounded boar, bleeding. Several birds were lying next to it, and the branches were broken. A sudden guess pierced Naruto, and she hurried back. "Well, my dear, it looks like we'll have to kill him anyway," an unfamiliar male voice was heard. Having landed on the roof of the house, the girl saw how some white-haired Chunin knocked out Tsunami. And then he attacked Inari, intending to cut her in two. Naruto abruptly folded the seal, and instead of Tazuna's grandson there was a log. "Substitution technique?" one of them said in a surprised tone. "Yes," said the girl, placing Tsunami and Inari next to the threshold of the house. "What weaklings you are, to attack the defenseless. It's sickening to look at you." She abruptly jumped up and, blocking the blows of her opponents, knocked them both out, and then tied them up and sealed them in a scroll. Looking firmly into Inari's eyes, Naruto nodded at the silent question and rushed towards the bridge. Having quickly reached her destination, the girl covered her face with her hands, saving herself from a powerful gust of wind. Opening one eye, she tried to see something, but there was nothing but clouds of smoke and powerful bursts of chakra. Rushing forward, the girl suddenly found herself next to Kakashi, protecting his back from the decapitator's blow. "And here is the last member of the team," Zabuza grinned. Naruto glanced to the right. So, Sakura is standing in front of Tazuna, preparing to protect him. Squinting to the right, Uzumaki saw large ice mirrors. So Sasuke was there. "Fuinjutsu! Barrier of Emptiness!" Naruto said the name of the technique, folding 5 seals. The space around her and Zabuza suddenly turned white. There was only emptiness around. No floor, no ceiling, no walls. Nothing. Momochi straightened up and looked around. And then raised an eyebrow. "Where am I?" he asked rudely. "You're in the void," Naruto answered. "This is not an illusion," she immediately warned when she felt how the man interrupted his chakra flow, and then abruptly resumed it. "There is no time, no objects, no sensations here. 10 years can pass here, but in reality, not a minute will pass." "Why am I here?" Momochi asked, getting into a fighting stance again, but his sword disappeared somewhere with a loud clap. And the next second, something knocked him off his feet and pressed him to what they were standing on. "I control everything here," the girl said, standing next to the lying Momochi. "Everything obeys me. I can make you fly in the air. I can arrange everything here so that this place will resemble your home village. I can create a whole crowd of phantoms," the girl grinned. "But you are here for something else. I want to talk to you." "Talk? What do you want to talk to me about?" Zabuza raised an eyebrow. "I suggest you join Konoha," Naruto drawled. "Why would I do that?" Zabuza smirked. Suddenly his body rose into the air. "Do you really think that Gato will pay you to kill us?" "No, he won't," I wouldn't be surprised if after your mission, the rest of the missing Nin are ordered to kill you, she yawned. But you can join the Leaf by becoming a Jonin. You and Haku will no longer have to do the dirty work of bastards like Gato. Why do you think I'll go to Konoha with you? Because I made you a lucrative offer, Uzumaki said, coming close to the man. I can negotiate with the Hokage, and you will not only become a Jonin, but also live with me in a rather large mansion. You and Haku will be surrounded by peace. There will be no useless deaths. And for your missions in Konoha, you will receive a good reward. A reward that will be 3 times more than the pennies that Gato pays you. Do you agree? You offer me this. But what do you want in return? The demon of the mist frowned. You will teach me sword fighting and be one of my official protectors when I need to introduce myself as Haim of the Uzumaki clan, said Naruto. I agree, said Momochi after some time. Good, the girl smiled, and the emptiness disappeared. The two were on the bridge again. Zabuza straightened up and walked away from Kakashi and Naruto, calling on Haku. The guy immediately appeared next to him. What is it, Zabuza-san? He asked. We stopped fighting, the man said. We are going to Konoha with Team 7. What? Sakura, Kakashi and Tazuna were surprised. I offered Zabuza a good deal, the girl explained. I'll tell you everything later, she nodded at the approaching crowd of missing Nin. Well, 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 said a short man in a black suit and with disheveled brown hair. Still, you betrayed me, Zabuza. Well, I expected this from you. Kill them, Gato ordered. The missing Nin grinned and rushed to attack. Haku, understanding the teacher without words, took out senbons and threw them at his former allies. Momochi took out Decapitator and began to kill the missing Nin. Kakashi attacked them with different techniques of the 4 elements, as did Naruto. A large number of residents led by Inari also arrived at the bridge. Together, they managed to defeat the Nuke Nin, and Momochi killed Gato with his own hands. Chapter 15 Survivors. We owe you, said Tazuna. Thank you for not abandoning the mission and helping us. It is not proper for a shinobi to avoid difficulties, answered Kakashi. But it was only thanks to you that we finished building the bridge, said a man. The entire village volunteered to say goodbye to the ninja. You will come again, right? Asked Inari. Yes, nodded Haku and smiled. Well, goodbye then, said Kakashi, and Team 7, together with the missing Nin from the mist, set off for Konoha. Everything was as usual. Kakashi was reading a book, Sakura was pestering Sasuke, who kept his face like a brick, Haku was looking at the scenery, Zabuza and Naruto were walking silently. There was an atmosphere of calm in the air. For the first time in a long time, Momochi did not feel any threat. Suddenly, someone's painful groan was heard. The travelers stopped and began to look around. There! Haku exclaimed, pointing his finger at the bushes. The guys ran to the bushes. Kakashi carefully parted the branches. A 16-year-old boy with tangled dark red hair appeared in front of the shinobi. His right side was ripped open, and a pool of blood had flowed under his body. All the guy's clothes were covered in dirt and blood. The red-haired man was half conscious. His eyes were closed, and his broken glasses were lying nearby. Oh God! Sakura exclaimed, putting her palms to her mouth. He needs first aid, Hatake said, taking the wounded man in his arms. We should find a place where we can wash and bandage the wounds. There's a river nearby, Momochi drawled. Excellent, Kakashi nodded and followed Zabuza, who was showing the way. As soon as they came to the river, the son of the white fan began to wash the guy from the blood, after which he gave him to Haku and Naruto, who immediately began treating him. Yuki was preparing a decoction of herbs, and Uzumaki was healing deep wounds with chakra. When the guy finished grinding the medicinal herbs, he applied the gruel to the scars left after Naruto's treatment. Now everything is fine, the girl whispered. It was strange, but she felt something familiar in this guy, something native. That's why the girl decided to cure him in order to ask him about this strange feeling. She wanted to find out everything as quickly as possible. However, Uzumaki knew that it was not worth waking the stranger now he had just fallen into a peaceful sleep. He needed to rest. About an hour later, when it was getting dark and the shinobi were sitting by the fire, a muffled groan was heard and the rescued scarlet-haired guy opened his eyes. At first, he didn't understand what was happening and was shocked that he was still alive. Naruto kindly explained the whole situation to him. "Thank you," the guy whispered. "And what's your name?" Haruno chimed in. "My name is Takumi," he said. "Takumi. Uzumaki." Naruto's mouth dropped open in surprise, and her heart began to beat faster. So that's what that feeling was. She felt like this guy was her relative. Happiness overwhelmed the blue-eyed girl. "And I'm Naruto. Uzumaki." The girl smiled. "Nice to meet you." "Uzumaki?" the red-haired man asked again. "Yeah. My mother was Kushina." "Uzumaki. And Kushina?" the guy whispered in amazement. "Do you know her?" "She's my aunt." "My father was her cousin." Takumi nodded his head. "Wow. So you're my brother?" Naruto's eyes lit up. "Aha." The guy nodded his head. "Where do you live? And what are you doing here?" Kakashi interrupted the meeting of relatives. "I was going to the city, when suddenly several unfamiliar shinobi attacked me. I resisted them, but I didn't notice the blow of one of them and I was wounded," the guy said. "And I live nearby in a small cave behind that hill." He pointed to a hill located higher up the river. 9 people live there and they are all from the Uzumaki clan," the guy said. "Really? Can you take me there? I really want to see my relatives." "Of course." Takumi smiled. "So this is the cave?" "Big one," Naruto said in amazement. "Aha." The red-haired man nodded. "Let's go faster." They were standing not far from the cave where, according to Takumi, 9 people from the Uzumaki clan live. Only Naruto went to the cave, leaving everyone else in the camp, promising to return by evening. Zabuza didn't really like that they would have to stay another day, but he was silent. Sakura was upset and frustrated. Why unknown? Sasuke, as always, didn't care about anything except Itachi's revenge and tomatoes. Kakashi got carried away by another depraved scene in the book. And Haku just enjoyed the peace. Taking a step forward, Uzumaki felt a strange lightness in her body, which immediately passed. The girl threw a surprised glance at Takumi, but he was silent and confidently walked forward. Suddenly, 3 5-year-old twin girls ran out to meet them. They quickly started chattering something, pointing at Naruto. Takumi explained to them what the problem was and the 3 little hurricanes moved to the blonde. Now Naruto could get a better look at them. All 3 had red hair and cute faces. They had similar enthusiastic, grateful faces and wide smiles. "Thank you for curing Takumi's brother," said one of them. "My name is Mayako. And these are my sisters, and I'm Mayoko," interrupted her a girl with brown eyes and short hair. "And I'm Mayuko," smiled another girl. Imps were dancing in her golden eyes. Mayaki only sighed heavily, looking at her sisters with displeasure. As Naruto understood, she was the most polite of the 3. And unlike her twins, her eyes were brown with a purple tint, which was unusual, and her hair covered her right eye and reached her waist. "Don't shout," Mayaki hissed at them. "She's Haim. Hey, Naruto! Come here. Jiro-sama wants to look at you," Takumi called the blonde. The girl nodded and went to the guy, next to whom stood a red-haired man with glasses and stubble. His eyes appraised Naruto. "My name is Jiro." "And who are you?" the man asked in a slightly rough voice. "My name is Naruto." "It's very nice to meet you," she bowed slightly, observing etiquette. "Me too," Jiro smiled. "Takumi said that you saved him." "Not only me, but my comrades too." "Your comrades? Where are they?" The man was surprised. "They are still in the camp now." Uzumaki waved her hand towards the river. "You know, I would like to talk to you about something." "I'm listening," the man nodded. "Your proposal makes sense," he drawled. "But I will need to talk about this with all the other representatives of our clan. Even though I am still the head, I must discuss this with everyone." "I understand." Naruto stood up. "Unfortunately, it is time for me to go. Today we are leaving for Konoha. Therefore, I suggest that you write me a message later and send it with a hawk. If everyone agrees, then I will negotiate with the Hokage, the girl suggested. Okay, Jiro nodded, also standing up. The man and the girl walked to the exit of the cave where they were talking. And the thing is that Naruto suggested that the remnants of the Uzumaki clan move to Konoha, where she can create a separate quarter. By the way, the blue-eyed girl suddenly said. Why did you believe that I was Uzumaki? Do you see the leaves with kanji? Jiro asked, but noticing how the blonde could not find them, he added, They are there, not far from the cave. Now Uzumaki found them and nodded. If you were an imposter, then this barrier would not have let you through, the man explained. Then I understand, the girl drawled. Thank you for your hospitality. Goodbye. See you later, the man smiled, watching Naruto run off to her comrades. Chapter 16 Meeting Gaara. We're out of milk. I'll go buy some. Naruto shouted. Yeah. Hashirama answered from the second floor. Uzumaki changed her shoes and left the mansion. Having closed the door, she looked back. Not far from her mansion there were several other houses, forming something like a small Uzumaki quarter. And this entire small quarter was surrounded by all sorts of barriers. Jiro, as promised, talked to all the Uzumaki living in the cave. He also contacted his niece, and she promised to find the surviving members of the clan. Little by little, Uzumaki began to come to Konoha, and now there were 12 of them, 9 from the cave, 1 Naruto, and 2 more who were found by Jiro's niece. Everyone liked living in a new place. It was spacious on the outskirts of Konoha. The air was clean and fresh. There were trees growing around. And Naruto even created a small park with blooming sakura. Aki, a young single mother, was often there. Her husband died 6 months ago. And Aki had only a newborn son, Fudo, left. At the first clan meeting, which took place a week after the 7th team returned from the Land of Waves, everyone decided to recognize Naruto as their Haim, since her mother was Kushina, the granddaughter of the Uzukage. The girl accepted this position, but for now she left all command to Jiro. He was not against it. Moreover, Hashirama sometimes helped him. No one knew what Senju really looked like. For everyone, he was an ANBU nicknamed Deer. However, no one from the clan doubted or suspected him of anything. If Naruto trusts him, then there is no need to fear betrayal. All the Uzumaki and former Nukenin decided. Speaking of them, after a rather long and sometimes loud conversation with the Hokage, Naruto got her way, and Zabuza and Haku were recognized as Leaf Shinobi. From now on, Momochi was a Jonin, and Yuki Chunin. They lived in a separate house built for them. Naruto was going to a 24-hour store, which was located near the center of the village. No, of course, she could have gone to a closer store, but the girl wanted to walk around Konoha. And the day was sunny. Unexpectedly, Uzumaki caught someone's unfamiliar chakra. Following the trail, she heard voices. The girl turned the corner and saw 2 genin from the sand mocking an unfamiliar boy. The guy, who looked about 15 years old, smirked. His black eyes were narrowed, and his thin eyebrows were furrowed. The son of Et's face was painted with some strange makeup. He was dressed in a black baggy suit with a hood with ears. On the chest of the suit was drawn a circle, divided into 2 parts, purple and yellow. On his feet were black sandals, and on his hands were gloves. Something strange and wrapped in bandages was behind the guy's back. In his hand, Son of Etz was holding a struggling 8-year-old boy by the collar. His long blue scarf barely touched the ground. And a kunoichi with 4 small ponytails was watching all this. She was wearing a short light purple dress. On her left thigh and right knee she had a special net, and behind her back was a huge fan. Hey you! Let him go! Uzumaki ordered, approaching the guy. Come on! I want to have fun. He bowed his head, carefully studying the girl. I said. Put him down. To the ground, Naruto said slowly. Otherwise what? The stranger grinned. You'll regret being born. Cracking her knuckles, Uzumaki said. A bloodthirsty grin appeared on her face, and evil ki began to spread around. When suddenly some kind of stone hit the painted man's head, and he let go of the boy in surprise. Everyone turned their gaze to the tree branch where the Uchiha was sitting. Attacking the younger ones? What a weakling, he chuckled arrogantly. Get down and fight like a real shinobi. The irritated son of Ets said sharply. I have no desire. Disappear from my sight. Sasuke looked menacingly at the genin from the sand and turned the stone into sand with one hand. The voice that sounded nearby made the Uchiha shudder in surprise. On the branch, which was slightly higher than the Uchiha's branch, stood an unfamiliar 13-year-old boy with black bags under his eyes. It was strange, but he had no eyebrows, and the icy gaze of his turquoise eyes sowed fear in the soul. On the guy's forehead was a kanji meaning, love. This kanji was barely covered by dark red hair. He was dressed in a black t-shirt with a mesh and loose pants. And behind his back was some kind of bottle. A huge stone bottle with a cork. Kankuro, stop it. You are a disgrace to our village. This same Kankuro turned pale, like his sister. Jigara. Yes, I'll be right there. Sorry. But they started it first. The guy babbled. Shut up. Or I'll kill you, the red-haired man interrupted the flow of words. And then Gaara crumbled like sand, and a moment later he was already standing with the genin from the sand. Uzumaki looked warily at the red-haired man. There was something wrong with him. The blonde felt strong chakra. Strong and familiar. The same chakra Kurama has. Aha, said the fox. Shikaka lives in this boy. And do you see those strange bags under his eyes? So the one-tailed has gone crazy lately, and is not letting his Jinchuriki sleep. If this Gaara falls asleep, then Shikaku will be reborn. Kyubi shook his head. Terrible, whispered Naruto. Lucky you are not such a psycho yet. Kankuro, Temari, we also have things to do. Let's go. Gaara's voice brought the girl back to reality. All three Sunits, as if on command, turned and slowly walked on. Uchiha jumped off the branch. Wait. What's your name? He asked. Me? Temari turned around and blushed slightly. No, what's the name of the red-haired one? Gaara stopped and looked into the Uchiha's eyes. Dog no Gaara. And yours? Uchiha Sasuke. Hey Gaara, Naruto called him. I hope we get to fight you in the exam, the girl smiled. Gaara was amazed. For the first time, someone smiled at him so brightly and openly. But then he tensed up. Maybe it was a fake smile? Most likely, she felt the chakra Shikaku, or obeys his father and must kill the boy. And she smiles so that Gaara himself does not suspect anything. However, fake smiles cannot be so kind. I'm not interested in weaklings, the guy chuckled. What if I tell you that my demon is 9 times stronger than yours? The red-haired man's eyes widened in surprise. Is she really the same as him? Then I will look forward to our battle. Sabaku no nodded his head. Then, see you. She waved her hand at him, continuing to smile happily. As soon as the 3 Sunits disappeared around the corner, Uzumaki gave a good slap to the boy who got into trouble. Why the hell are you asking for trouble? Next time we will not save you, she hissed. As if it hurt. The boy snorted and turned away from the saviors. And anyway, how dare you slap me on the back of the head? Me, the grandson of the Hokage. How dare you address me as, you? Me, I'm of the Uzumaki clan. She copied his tone. Don't get too cocky. Your grandfather may be a great shinobi, but you yourself are as weak as a worm. Now go home, the girl finished in a stern tone. You're giving orders here, the boy shrugged, but still went home. How proud, Uchiha chuckled, looking after Konohamaru as he walked away. Reminds me of you, Naruto smiled. What? Uchiha was indignant, even forgetting his signature. Pfft. In response, Naruto only laughed and winked at him. See you tomorrow, she said, leaving. At noon, Team 7 gathered on a small red bridge. Kakashi had called them and had something important to say, since he was only 5 minutes late today. I called you to tell you about the Chunin. Shuriken, and that I nominated you to participate in it, Kakashi spoke. Here are the forms. If you agree to participate, then fill them out and come to the academy tomorrow at 2. Audience number 301. Chunin. Chicken? Sakura asked again. What is it? Chunin, Shuriken, is an exam that is held twice a year. It usually consists of 3 stages. The main goal of the exam is to unite the countries. If the judges decide that you have shown yourself worthy during the exam, then you will become a Chunin. In other words, you will increase your rank and you will be given more difficult tasks, explained Kakashi. I see, Haruno pulled. Now I have to go. See you later. Jonin made an eye smile. Chapter 17. Before the first stage. The next day, Team 7 gathered again. But this time at the academy. Kakashi took the signed forms and explained that if any of them refused, then the team would not be allowed to take the exam. Saying that he needed to give the forms to the examiners, Hatake disappeared. As they climbed up to the 2nd floor, the guys heard some strange screams. Following them, they stopped near the 201st auditorium. 2 Chunins were standing at the door, and something green and beaten was sitting on the floor. Naruto recognized this as Lee with horror. Tenten was sitting next to him and asking to let them through. But Niji was glaring at the 2 Chunins. Naruto jumped up to Lee and sat down next to him. Suddenly, Hyuga's hand fell on her shoulder, squeezing it lightly. Looking at her friend, Naruto smiled, and he only nodded. Let us through, Uzumaki said sternly. A Chunin is a squad leader and is responsible for the failure of a mission, the deaths of subordinates, and the like. And I don't think such weaklings should be allowed to take this exam. Yes, convincing arguments, but I will still take the exam. And remove this barrier created by an illusion. I have business on the 3rd floor, Sasuke said coldly. Whispers began. No one understood what the boy was talking about. The guys chuckled. So you noticed? Snorted one of them. Listen. This exam is extremely difficult. We are only saving you from injury. Or maybe we don't need to be saved from anything? Uchiha said coldly. Let me in, or I will use brute force. Heh! Try it. The Chunin grinned. The stranger braced himself for a blow, just like Sasuke. Both attacked at the same time, intending to kick each other with their legs from a half-turn. But suddenly Lee intercepted them, tightly squeezing the right legs of their opponents. Interest and surprise flashed in Sasuke's eyes. We agreed that we would not show our strength. Niji shook his head, still holding Naruto, whom he managed to move away from Lee, who suddenly perked up at the last moment. If he hadn't had time, the green beast would have accidentally hit the Haim of the Uzumaki clan. Lee looked at Sakura strangely and blushed. His heart began to beat faster. Remembering the almighty power of youth, Rock approached the kunoichi and said loudly, My name is Rock Lee. And you are Sakura-san, right? Huh? Yes, the girl nodded her head. Let's date. And then I will protect you until the day I die. Rock Lee smiled from ear to ear. What? The shocked girl squeezed out of herself and quickly added, waving her hands, No. Never and under no circumstances. But why? Whined Rock. You are too unique for my taste. Haruno shuddered. And Naruto just shook her head. Lee may be unusual in appearance, but he is very kind and sincere. It's a pity that Sakura does not understand this. What is your name? Niji asked Uchiha, still holding Uzumaki. Sasuke threw an appraising glance at the brown-haired man and stopped it on the girl's shoulder, where Hyuga's hand lay. Uchiha mockingly raised an eyebrow. And Naruto, noticing this, blushed slightly and hurried to remove her friend's hand from her shoulder. Well-mannered people introduce themselves first, said the bearer of the Sharingan. This is Uchiha Sasuke, said Naruto. And this is Hyuga. Niji. Now that we've met, let's all go to the auditorium together and take the first exam? The girl suggested. You're right. Let's go. Sakura supported her with great enthusiasm and, picking up Sasuke and Naruto, hurried away from Lee. Let's go. Let's go. But they didn't manage to get far. The guys were just approaching the training arena inside the academy, when a voice was heard from behind. Uchiha Sasuke. Will you fight me, right here, right now? Fight? Uchiha raised an eyebrow. Yes. I would like to see how my moves turn against a genius, Lee answered him in a serious tone. Then he turned towards Sakura and blushed and said, And one more thing. Sakura-san. I love you. No! She let out a panicked cry. I hate thick-browed people. Your hairstyle, thick unkempt eyebrows, and absolutely everything about you, is too unique for me. You are an angel, he told her and launched a heart in her direction. Where did it come from? Yes. Love works miracles, no. Sakura squeaked muffledly and dodged him. Very cute. How about this? Rock did not give up and released a whole bunch of hearts. Sakura managed to dodge them all, but miscalculated and hit her head on the wall behind her. Rising with a stifled groan of pain, she touched the bump on her head and looked menacingly at Lee. Don't you dare do that! Sakura exclaimed angrily. And Rock, judging by his appearance, was very upset that not a single heart hit the target. Sadness and angst were flying around him. The exam will start soon. If you want to fight so much, then be patient. And now we don't have time. Sasuke turned around and was about to leave. We still have half an hour before the start, and I think 10 minutes will be enough for me to win, Lee grinned. Okay, I'll fight you, the Sharingan flashed in the Uchiha's eyes. Lee did not wait for another invitation, and they simultaneously rushed at each other. Lee will win, Naruto sighed, watching the fight. No! Sasuke-kun is stronger, and he has the Sharingan. Haruno objected. Lee is faster, and he has the power of youth. Uzumaki shook her head, looking in surprise at Lee bandaging Sasuke. Is he really using this technique? Stay where you are, Lee, said a voice from the side. Turning around, Rock saw the turtle and let go of Sasuke, landing in front of her on one knee. Sakura rushed to the Uchiha and caught him. Lee, these movements are forbidden, the reptile said menacingly. I apologize, I got a little carried away, Lee answered, lowering his head guiltily. But I did not intend to use the reverse lotus. Really, I'm not lying to you, fool! Exclaimed the turtle. Do you think there is forgiveness for this? You know very well what it means for a shinobi to put their movements on display for everyone to see. Are you ready to face the consequences? Sakura and Sasuke looked at the picture that opened up to them in surprise. Yes, Lee nodded. Then, Guy, I'll leave this to you, and the reptile evaporated. You guys are still in your prime, aren't you? Asked Mato, who appeared in a puff of smoke. Hey, Guy. How are you? Naruto waved her hand. Great. The man flashed his teeth and, looking at his student, continued Lee. You idiot! He exclaimed and hit Lee in the jaw with all his might, causing him to fly into the wall. Guy himself continued intermittently. Lee, you, sensei! Lee began to speak. Sensei. It's okay, Lee, don't say anything else, Guy answered him with tears in his eyes. Sensei. Also shedding a tear, Lee exclaimed in response and threw himself into the arms of his sensei. Let's get out of here. This will take a long time, said Naruto and dragged her friends to the necessary audience. The last thing they saw was a cliff on the seashore and the sun setting over the horizon. Chapter 18 The First Stage. There are 15 minutes left until the exam starts, Hataki said, standing next to the audience. In general, you three did well. I'm proud of you. Now go behind this door and past this stage, Kakashi smiled. All three nodded and opened the door. The eyes of everyone present stared at the newcomers. And then the genin began to whisper again. Catching Gaara's gaze, Naruto smiled at him. Suddenly Ino pounced on Sasuke from the side and began to say something in his ear. Sakura, naturally, could not hold back and the clarification of who would get the last Uchiha began. Were you also sent to this stupid test? Shikamaru asked, yawning. Yes, Naruto nodded, looking around the audience. Seeing the familiar top of the head with 2 tufts of brown hair, the girl smiled. Jumping up to her friend, She smiled at Niji and Lee and, leaning her hand on the shoulder of the sitting Tenten, began to chat with the third team. As it turned out, Lee had already recovered from Sakura's refusal and gained new strength in order to win her love. Takahashi only smiled at this. Suddenly, a sharp scream and the sound of breaking glass were heard. Turning around, all four saw how some guy from sound attacked a white-haired bespectacled guy standing next to teams 7, 8, and 10. A conflict would have begun, but the door opened in time and the examiners entered the audience. A tall man in a cloak and with a bunch of scars on his face stood in front of them. His eyes carefully fell on the genin and stopped at the sound guys. "I am your first examiner. My name is Marino Ibiki," he said. "Guys from Otogekure, stop all this immediately. Wanted to fly out before the exam even started? My apologies. This is our first time. We got a little carried away," the mummy guy answered in a hoarse voice. "You are not allowed to fight without the examiner's permission," he continued rudely. "The first test will be written. The exam sounds simple." Someone's voice was heard. "That's what we'll check now," Moreno grinned. "We will now begin your first stage of the Chunin exam. Bring your ID, take your pass, and sit in the seat indicated for you." All the genin began to approach the table one by one and take question papers, pencils, and erasers. Naruto got seat 98. Next to her, in seat 99th, sat Hinata. Uzumaki was familiar with Hyuga, but they communicated at the level of hi-bye. The girl knew that Niji's sister was very shy and sweet. As soon as everyone sat down, Haim looked at the class. Sasuke was sitting in a row by the wall. Niji was perched not far from him. Sakura was 3 steps above Naruto. Tenten was in the next row by the window. And Lee was right in front of Uzumaki. There are several important rules in the first exam. Since you will not be asking questions, you must listen carefully. The first rule: initially, you are given 10 points. This test also consists of 10 questions. But everything is not so simple. A subtraction system is embedded in this stage. That is, each correct answer is equal to 1 point, and for each incorrect answer, 1 point is subtracted. If you answer all 10 questions correctly, then your 10 points are saved. If you skipped all 10 questions or answered incorrectly, then you are left with 0 points. The second rule: as you can see, there are Chunin sitting in the audience with forms in their hands. If they notice that you are cheating or something else, then you are expelled from the exam. And the third rule: if at least one person on the team has 0 points, then the entire team is considered to have failed and you are also expelled from the exam. Any questions? Yes. Some grass shinobi raised his hand. You said there would be 10 questions, but there are 9 on the form. I will ask you the 10th question 45 minutes after the start of the exam, explained Ibiki. You have 1 hour for the entire exam. I have said everything. Begin. Everyone rustled their papers and began to read the questions. Some immediately grabbed pencils and began to write the answers. Others thought for a long time at first, and then also began to write. In the first 5 minutes, Naruto counted 46 mournful sighs. Apparently, she was not the only one who did not understand anything about theory. Haim looked around. The observers were carefully watching the genin, so as not to allow even the thought of cheating. However, most of the students still cheated. And they tried to do it unnoticed. But Naruto saw something red in Sasuke's eyes. So he used the Sharingan. Looking at Niji, she saw bulging veins. So he uses the Byakugan and shines his eyes on the guy sitting in front of him. Gaara used some kind of technique, and there was an eye hanging next to one of the genin. His brother, Kankuro, went to the toilet and did not return for half an hour. Lee was clearly waiting for something. Unfortunately, Uzumaki could not look back and find out what Sakura and Tenten were doing so that the sitting Chunin would not notice. However, the blue-eyed girl had no doubts about these two. In her class, Takahashi was one of the best in theory, and Sakura has a phenomenal memory. Suddenly, Rock raised his head and tied a bandana over his head. And then he picked up a pencil and began to scribble, occasionally glancing at the ceiling. Following her friend's gaze, Uzumaki saw that someone's work was reflected in the mirror under the ceiling. Squinting a little, Naruto saw Tenten's neat signature. "Tenny, I love you!" the girl thought and began to copy. Of course, Takahashi only let Lee copy her work, but why not take advantage of the chance? Naruto again buried her nose in the sheet of paper with questions. Yes. If you think about it, she herself could answer 1 or 2 questions at most. And it was not a fact that they would be correct. The questions were so difficult that even Naruto, who never listened very carefully to the teachers in class, understood that their curriculum did not include such topics. And the system was subtraction of points. If the examiners planned to evaluate the level of knowledge, they would not allow copying at all. So this exam is designed for something. Attention! The examiner's low voice echoed throughout the audience 45 minutes after the start of the exam. I announced the 10th question. Before I dictate it, I will introduce a few additional rules. Ibiki looked at the genin with a heavy gaze. This question is very important. Therefore, first you must decide whether you will attempt to answer it. If you or someone from your team refuses to answer it, your points are reset to 0. In other words, you fail. However, if you attempt to answer it but answer it incorrectly, then your entire team will lose the right to take the exam and will remain genin forever. But there are those who have already taken the exam before. Kiba exclaimed. What kind of rules are these? You were just unlucky, Ibiki smirked darkly. I am setting the rules this year. However, those who are not confident in their abilities can try to take it next year. So, if you want to refuse, just raise your hand. A heavy, oppressive silence fell. After a minute, one boy couldn't take it anymore. Excuse me. I give up. Janai and Oho, forgive me. I can't. Number 50 has failed. Numbers 33 and 18 are disqualified. Marino announced. Who else? Many genin began to slowly raise their hands. Hinata also wanted to leave. She was worried and afraid, but Naruto's encouraging look prevented her from doing so. When, finally, many teams left the auditorium, Marino solemnly said, Everyone who remains has passed the first Chunin stage. Sure Ken. But noticing the uncomprehending looks, the man began to explain all the intricacies of the exam. Then, it turns out, these questions are useless? Temari got angry. No, what are you? These questions are given to test your ability to gather information. Sometimes information can cost you your life. Any mistake can harm the team, or the village. They specially planted a couple of Chunin with you who wrote the answer. Those who tried to clumsily copy were immediately kicked out, as you saw. This concludes the first stage of the exam. Ibiki was interrupted by the sound of breaking glass. Turning their heads to the window, everyone saw something with purple hair fly into the classroom. What are you having fun for, young people? I am the examiner of the second stage, Mitarashi Anko, said a woman dressed in specific and very revealing clothes. After looking around the audience, she said, Looks like the first stage was easy this year. As many as 20 teams. But that's okay. I'll only get through less than half. At these words, whispers began. The next stage won't be as easy as this one. You'll learn the details from your mentors. That's all. Disperse. Chapter 19 The Second Stage. Team 7, like the other genin, stood not far from the site of the second exam. Naruto looked around. Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death, looked creepy from the side. A huge 3-meter fence, behind which stood a wall of tall trees, brought on gloomy thoughts. I'll start by examining the terrain, said the examiner. Training Area 44 is surrounded by 50 gates. The arena is covered in a forest, in which there are a lot of poisonous plants, insects and predatory animals. A river flows through it. In the center there is a tower that you need to get to. The distance from the gate to the tower is about 10 kilometers. Using any methods, you will have to not only survive, but also complete a task. And this task will be, Anko waited for a meaningful pause, looked at the genin and with an imperceptible movement pulled out 2 scrolls, a battle for the scrolls without rules. A battle for the scrolls? One of the genin asked. Correct. Each team will be given one of two scrolls, either Sky or Earth. Only those teams that have both scrolls and have no losses in their lineup will be able to pass. There are only 26 teams here. Half will get a Sky scroll, and the other half will get an Earth scroll. Mitarashi turned the scrolls over in her hands. One was white with the kanji for Sky, and the other was black and with the kanji for Earth. The rules are simple. Reach the tower in 5 days without losing anyone from your team, with 2 scrolls. So, in any case, you will have to engage in battle with at least one team to get the second scroll. And that's not counting those who try to simply eliminate you. So, at best, only half of the teams will pass? Tough selection, said Naruto. That's right, nodded Anko. But before you go through, you have to sign some papers, Mitarashi continued with the same maniacal grin. You see, the forest of death is full of dangerous creatures and poisonous plants. No one guarantees that you will return safe and sound. Several Chunin began handing out agreements to the genin with the rules and dangers that would be there. Quickly running her eyes over what was written, Uzumaki signed. The girl raised her head and looked around the area. Shikamaru's team had already written the agreement and received the scroll. Hinata stood next to the fence and nervously peered at the agreement. Kiba encouragingly patted her on the shoulder and said something. Niji stood nearby and carefully read the text. Lee, shouting the invariable phrase about the power of youth, put some squiggle. Tenten, sighing, did the same. Naruto turned her gaze to Gaara. He stood far from everyone and looked at the genin, looking for potential victims. Temari and Kankuro were discussing something. At the same time, Uzumaki noticed a white scroll flashing behind the girl's belt. Sasuke and Sakura were nearby. Haruno thoughtfully looked at her sheet. Uchiha signed with one sharp movement and stood up. Having said something to Sakura, he quickly walked to the registration table. Naruto saw how the genin from the grass village was watching Sasuke with an unwavering gaze. Uzumaki involuntarily shuddered. That kunoichi was weird and creepy. When she handed over the throne, kunai Anko did it with her tongue unnaturally long, like a snake's. But most of all, the large reserve of chakra, the bloodthirsty look, and the terrifying ki around her were alarming. Are you coming, Naruto? Asked Uchiha, standing next to Uzumaki. Huh? Yes. The girl jumped out and, throwing a farewell glance at the third team, followed Sasuke to the registration table. 2 Chunin sitting there gave the guys a scroll of heaven. Approaching the 16th gate, the 7th team prepared to run into it. A minute later, a whistle blew in the speaker hanging above the gate. Attention! Get ready! The instructor commanded. The second stage begins. The 7th team took off abruptly and ran into the forest of death. The genin ran several dozen meters deep and stopped, listening intently. It was damp and gloomy all around. The sunlight barely made it through the thick foliage, and snags were sticking out of the ground everywhere. Vines hung from the trees. The genin moved forward carefully, almost silently. A scream was heard in the distance, and they involuntarily flinched, but continued to move on. Sasuke walked ahead, looking out for traps. Sakura was in the middle, and Naruto covered the rear. I don't like it here. Sakura looked back fearfully. We'll break through, Naruto promised and suddenly tensed up. I'll be right there. Uzumaki went into the nearest bushes. Suddenly, someone's painful groan was heard. Coming out of there, the girl threw the grass shinobi to the ground. He tried to attack from behind. She snorted contemptuously. Unfortunately, he has a scroll of sky. But just in case, you should have a spare one. She turned the scroll over in her hand and put it in her pouch. Well, shall we move on? Yeah. Haruno nodded. Suddenly Sasuke pulled out a kunai and threw it at Uzumaki. She dodged and looked at the Uchiha in surprise. Where is the real one? The Sharingan bearer asked. Haruno looked at him in bewilderment. Sakura, take a closer look. Naruto is right-handed, which means the scabbard should be on her right leg. Moreover, Uzumaki doesn't have such a squeaky voice. Haruno looked at the girl. And it's true. Naruto is somehow wrong. Well, I wanted to do it the easy way. I'll have to kill you both. A strange man in a mask was already standing in front of them. He pounced on his opponents with a kunai, but they dodged, jumping away. Having activated the Sharingan, the Uchiha rushed at the enemy. The shinobi wanted to kick the Konoha man, but Sasuke, jumping in time, put his hand on the guy's leg and, leaning on it, jumped into the air and kicked the enemy's head with all his might. He flew to the side and crashed into a tree. Suddenly claps were heard. Well done. As it turned out, the kunoichi from Kusa was speaking and applauding. You defeated my pawn. Well, now I will personally deal with you. And Uzumaki herself was now in the belly of a huge snake. Having covered her body with chakra, so as not to get dirty in the animal's gastric juice, the girl put her hand to the snake's flesh. Mokutan. Technique of piercing with thorns. She said the name of the technique. In an instant, the chakraheim walked all over the snake's body. A second later, huge wooden spikes pierced the reptile through and through. With a characteristic pop, the animal disappeared, and the girl climbed out to freedom. Rushing to the place where the chakra was teammates, Uzumaki found them lying on a tree branch. Both were shaking and both were silently screaming. And right in front of them stood that kunoichi from the grass village.